Welcome. This is BloombergQuint. I'm Agam Vakil, and we are wrapping the markets up here for you. We've seen the Nifty advance by around 6/10 of the percentage points, and we have substantial gains in Bharti Airtel, Adani Ports, and ONGC, the top three gainers on the index, which has also led the lead largely in today's day of trade. On the losing end, we have substantial weakness in UPL, which is down as much as nearly 10%, and also the top loser on the index. Vedanta, IndusInd Bank, and Reliance Industry is under pressure. All three of them heavyweights, and well, perhaps if it wasn't for a handful of your companies like Bharti Airtel and ONGC, well, the Nifty would have very well been in the red. Let's take a look at how things are panning out when it comes to the broader markets too, and at least as far as the Nifty 500 is concerned, well, we do have enough of gainers and losers. It's been a fairly mixed day of trade as well. But in terms of the advanced decline ratio, and that's what I'm really interested in, is that, well, we do have equally, well, in terms of poison, in terms of gainers and losers. So we do have one gainer for one loser. Vodafone Idea advancing by as much as 17% in the gainers list is one thing that stands out. We have surprise gains for Inox Leisure and PVR, which have been under a tad bit of pressure of late because of a lot of movies being released on the OTT platforms, and it's been in the news as well. Granules India, Birla Soft, and Sonata Software, among others. Of course, Adani Power and Adani Ports are also advancing. AstraZeneca Pharma, on the other hand, is under considerable amount of pressure. Besides that, we have Hindustan Zinc, Atul, and Oracle Financial Services, which are also looking at substantial cuts. It's not exactly the best day of trade, considering we have an equal number of losers against the gainers in today's day of trade. And I would say the momentum, as far as the downside is concerned, would equal that we have seen on the upside. On that note, let me get in our market editor, Neeraj Shah, for his thoughts on the markets and how things have panned out today. Neeraj.
Yeah, Agam, not too much different, because I think you summed it up perfectly. But yeah, just that. I thought that the Nifty Bank continued to put in the pressure on the index. And I think in the trade setup today, I was talking about the possibilities of that. No rocket science again. Anybody would have said it. Frankly, I've been caught on the wrong foot, because I frankly thought that the pressure would be much more intense. But we somehow, if you just look at the intraday, you will see that how we came off in the Nifty Bank intraday today. So 3 days, the Nifty Bank has come off quite rapidly. But in today's session, we took support at the break-even point, then went up higher, and then again came back. So there is weakness, yes, but it's not cracking after the crack that we've seen. So maybe on the Nifty, after the 800-point dip that we've already seen, the market doesn't want to go down in a linear fashion. That is part one. I think I would do watch out for Reliance Industries. I mean, the participation of Reliance is very key for the indices to get any support. And the reason why I find it interesting is because of this. Today, Bharti Airtel, ONGC, so an upstream oil and gas company, and a telco major, both of them did very well. They were the top two gainers on the index, and Reliance, which has an equal component of both, actually went down quite substantially. So there are technical factors at play. I think a lot of people are waiting for this rights issue to get over. I don't know why, but I'm just saying that there is weakness out there, and Reliance need to participate, and the banks, as I said, I think is the key monitorable as well in this session. So Agam, a few names that I would watch out for. I don't know how the derivative positions suggest stayed up, Agam, but one thing that tells you that there is weakness, Agam, right, is the FI flows. You've been speaking about it the last few days on email as well. We've had about 25 crores worth of FI outflows the last 2 or 3 sessions, and the DI flows are also not looking all that great.
I agree with you, Neeraj. A bunch of things when it comes to the futures and options space. Firstly, that a lot of your options writing has shifted downwards. So not only are a lot of these traders writing lower level puts, but the activity for calls as well has shifted from around 10,000 mark about just a week ago. It's come down to the level of around 9,500, and that may mark as a near-term move as far as the Nifty is concerned, and that's where we may see capping. Of course, we are looking at a lot of writing around the 8,400 and 8,300 puts as well, which means that, well, a lot of traders are not ruling out 8,500 too, at least in the near term, considering a lot of these writing is below that mark. Usually we see these round figures where there is the most amount of writing, but for now we are also looking at a lot of activity around the 8,300 mark, which just gives me into a little bit of a concern. That said, as far as the FIs are concerned, it's interesting that you mentioned them, because FIs have been selling in cash markets of late, but they've also been buying index futures. and that is very interesting. So I reckon that they are hedging their short bets with perhaps buying into index futures, and that's the way I'm looking at things as far as the futures and options space is concerned.
Okay, viewers, last couple of minutes, we'll try and talk about some questions that people may have. So on YouTube, VB is writing about whether are we already in a recession. VB, I think anybody's guess, but with the kind of growth numbers that we're looking at, I would guess recession is a mild term that we're looking. From a technical perspective as well, 2 quarters of a correction would lead to a recession, or from a market's perspective, more than 20% fall. And I think we kind of qualify on all of those. The GDP numbers, of course, we'll get to know a bit later on. But yeah, most experts would tell you that we're in a recessionary scenario for sure, and India for sure, if not for the rest of the world. So that is one. Please write to us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and we'll try and answer as much as we can in the next 2 or 3 minutes. I don't know if you have other thoughts, but there is Anuj Kumar asking for a view on HDFC Limited and Asian Paints. Anuj, I dare say we might not be able to give you a technical view or of some sort, but I must draw your attention, Anuj, to a note that Goldman Sachs wrote on Asian Paints, wherein they said that there will be down trading that people will have to do. People will actually postpone the painting of their houses as well. I think they referred to that as well in the note. And they believe that all of these factors will mean that companies like Asian Paints should not trade at the 47, 48 time multiple that they believe the Asian Paints is trading at, and should trade at about 39. I think their target price, if I'm not wrong, was 1,111. So if you believe Goldman Sachs, Anuj, then if you have Asian Paints in your portfolio, maybe you should be a seller. Mind you, there is also this belief that these companies survive long periods of time, very good ratios, very few sellers in the market, and therefore corrections don't last deep. So you have to bear that in mind as well. And there are brokerages that are bullish on Asian Paints too, but this was one view that I thought was very interesting. Agam, somebody's asking about L&T Tech. No, actually it's L&T. I don't know if you have a thought there, if you looked at the brokerages or if you looked at the expectations from Bajaj Finance, but Bajaj Finance would be interesting, Agam, considering the results now come out, and the commentary from Bajaj Finance would be interesting.
Yeah, Bajaj Finance has been an extremely tough stock to buy into of late. Now, we know that its recent low is at 1915. It hasn't broken that. But every time Bajaj Finance moves above the mark of 2200, 2300 recently, we've seen that come off quite a bit, and eventually, it settles around the mark of 1950. Well, of course, we will watch out for earnings as to what Bajaj Finance, does come in with. Do remember, Bajaj Finance usually does come out with earnings during market hours, but I'm sure the board will have to much to consider this time around, and that's perhaps the reason why, that's the announcement of the earnings are quite late. But again, we are looking at Bajaj Finance currently below the 2000 mark, and should the numbers disappoint tomorrow, well, it's anybody's guess as to where it may go. But even if they do surprise positively, I reckon based on the options that we are looking at right now, at least in the near term, 2300 is the top, at least for now, in terms of the resistance.
Yeah, well, just before we wrap up, remember, viewers, Rajat Bose today in the morning gave a sell call on Bajaj Finance, believing that it will head lower. It's a marquee blue chip NBFC. It's able to raise commercial paper at really good rates as well. You want to ask yourself if you're a trader and you want to bet for the short term, or you want to accumulate the stock from a medium term perspective, if you believe that the fundamentals are intact. There's somebody asking for a view on Larsen & Toubro as well. Very difficult to call this. I think brokerages at the margin have turned bullish on L&T as well. Let's wait and watch if that lasts. I do urge for anybody looking to look at L&T to go onto our website and try and log in and read that story about Larsen & Toubro that I think Darshan wrote about a month back. So that's the other interesting one. But viewers, just as we leave you, remember, there are a couple of things. Maharashtra government has said that from 22nd, there might be some relaxations in the red zones as well. And that might have a bit of a sentiment booster. Gujarat has started today. Bangalore has been opening up slowly. And that might have sentiment booster for some of the impacted stocks. So malls, restaurants, PVR and Inox were up and about in the session today. So I think that entire bucket is something that you've got to closely monitor. Bajaj Finance, something that you've got to monitor tomorrow. And of course, watch out for Bharti Airtel with the kind of move that it had. But I'm out of words. Otherwise, I think we've summed up most of the important points. So I don't know if you have anything more to add.
No, we do have a viewer who has a question on Vodafone ID. And of course, we had several broking notes this morning. Looking positively towards Vodafone Idea for, of course, various reasons, and tariffs would be one important reason here. The notes, of course, suggest some amount of positivity, but I reckon that a lot of our experts would suggest to wait and watch before you move into something like Vodafone Idea. And even if you do, of course, your investments should be staggered based on the kind of conversation that I'm having with experts. But yes, that is what we have in terms of in day to day. The Nifty has closed in the green, and once again, we keep an eye on the big boy Bajaj Finance post-market, and let's see how that comes up in terms of earnings. But on that note, it's a wrap from me, Neeraj, and BloombergQuint. But stay tuned for more news and updates.
How many places can you be at once?